Galactic tradition demands I share a night with the alien princesses, or face exile from their world. Cosmic collision. Elias Chen rubbed his temples as the shuttle descended toward Nexoria's glittering surface. After 3 years as Earth's junior diplomatic envoy to the Galactic Council, this was his first solo mission of significance. Secure a trade agreement with the notoriously isolated Nexorians. Ambassador Chen, we approach the Crystal Palace, the pilot announced. Prepare for atmospheric adjustment. The shuttle windows darkened as they passed through Nexoria's iridescent atmospheric barrier. Outside, the landscape transformed from swirling violet clouds to vast crystal plains that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. Elias reviewed his briefing notes one final time. Nexorians valued ceremony above all. One misstep could end negotiations before they began. The Crystal Palace rose before them, not built but grown, a magnificent structure of translucent purple crystal that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. As the shuttle landed on a platform of polished stone, Elias straightened his formal diplomatic attire and practiced the traditional Nexorian greeting gesture. A delegation awaited him, led by a tall figure whose skin shimmered with a subtle lavender hue. Her eyes, large and luminous, contained swirling patterns like distant galaxies. "Welcome, Ambassador Chen," she said, her voice melodic. "I am Tella, Royal Advisor. The Celestial Court awaits," Elias bowed. "I bring greetings from Earth and the Human Alliance." The palace interior was even more breathtaking. Corridors of crystal that sang softly when walked upon, ceilings that captured starlight and redistributed it in gentle waves. Elias followed Tella through a labyrinth of passages until they reached enormous doors carved with intricate astronomical charts. "You arrive on an auspicious day," Tella said. "The ascension ceremony of Princess Vela coincides with your visit. A fortunate omen." Before Elias could ask for clarification, the doors swung open to reveal a vast circular chamber. Hundreds of Nexorians stood in concentric circles around a central dais where a single figure stood in solitude. Princess Vela, he presumed. Unlike the others, whose skin held subtle purple tones, hers was a deep, rich violet that seemed to capture and release light with each movement. "Remain at the periphery," Tella instructed. "The ceremony is sacred." But as Princess Vela raised her arms to begin the ritual, a disturbance rippled through the crowd. A hooded figure broke from the inner circle, rushing toward her with something gleaming in hand. The royal guards moved too slowly. Without thinking, Elias lunged forward, diplomatic protocol forgotten. He intercepted the attacker, both of them crashing into the crystal dais. A sharp pain sliced across his palm as they struggled. The guards swarmed, securing the assassin, while Elias found himself face to face with Princess Vela. Their hands touched, his bleeding, hers glowing with ceremonial oils. The contact sent a jolt through his body like nothing he'd ever experienced. The princess gasped, her galaxy eyes widening. "The bond is formed," someone whispered in the suddenly silent chamber. "The outsider has joined with royal essence." Princess Vela stared at Elias with an expression of shock that mirrored his own. When she spoke, her voice resonated directly in his mind. "Human, do you understand what you have done? Our essences have merged. By ancient law, we are now bound as one spirit across 2 bodies." Elias felt a strange warmth spreading from his injured hand throughout his body. The diplomatic mission, his career, Earth itself, all seemed suddenly distant as an inexplicable connection to this alien princess bloomed within him. "The cosmic convergence demands completion," announced an elder Nexorian, stepping forward. "The human must participate in the stellar union or face exile from our world forever." Princess Vela's eyes never left his. "Ambassador Chen, you are now part of something beyond your understanding. Tonight our minds will join completely, a union of souls across stars. Prepare yourself." Elias sat alone in his assigned chamber, staring at the bandage wrapped around his palm. The wound itself had already healed, a side effect, they claimed, of his connection with Princess Vela, a connection he still couldn't comprehend. "The stellar union is not what you fear," said Tella, who had escorted him to these quarters. "It is not physical, but a melding of consciousness. The princess will guide you through it at moonrise." Now, as the light filtering through his crystal windows shifted to the deep indigo of Nexorian evening, Elias paced nervously. What did it mean to have his consciousness melded with another being's? Would he lose himself? His diplomatic training had prepared him for many cultural misunderstandings, but nothing like this. A soft chime resonated, and his door dissolved into mist. Princess Vela stood in the threshold, her violet skin luminous in the dimmed light. She had changed from her ceremonial attire into a simpler gown that seemed woven from starlight itself. "You're afraid," she said. "Not a question, but an observation. On Earth, our minds are our own," Elias replied. "The idea of sharing thoughts is unsettling." Vela entered, the door reforming behind her. "Yet your people share your bodies readily enough, do they not? We find that far more intimate than the sharing of thoughts." She approached, her movements fluid and graceful. "May I?" When Elias nodded, she took his bandaged hand in hers. The sensation returned immediately, a warm current flowing between them. "I already feel your anxiety," she said softly, "and beneath it, curiosity. That's good. Fear closes pathways. Curiosity opens them." She led him to a circular platform in the center of the room. As they sat facing each other, Elias noticed how the starlight filtering through the crystal walls caught in the depths of her eyes. "The bond we formed was accidental, but it cannot be undone," Vela explained. "Tonight we must complete the connection or it will remain unstable, causing pain to us both. And if we complete it, what then?" Her expression softened. "Then we will carry part of each other always, across any distance. It is our most sacred connection, rarely shared outside our kind." Elias took a deep breath. "What do I need to do?" "Close your eyes. Focus on the warmth where our hands meet. Let it expand." Elias obeyed, concentrating on the pleasant sensation flowing from their touch. Gradually the feeling intensified, spreading up his arm and throughout his body. Then unexpectedly, he felt his consciousness expanding, reaching beyond his physical form. "I am here." Vela's voice resonated directly in his mind. "Do not resist." The chamber around them dissolved. Elias found himself floating in a vast space filled with swirling memories and emotions, some his, others foreign yet increasingly familiar. Vela's presence enveloped him like a warm current in a cosmic sea. Through her eyes he experienced fragments of her life, the weight of responsibility placed on her since birth, the loneliness of royal isolation, her secret fascination with other worlds, her fear that she would never be strong enough to lead her people. "Your turn," her consciousness whispered. "Show me." Instinctively, Elias opened his memories, growing up as the son of scientists who studied extraterrestrial cultures. His determination to build bridges between species, the emptiness he sometimes felt despite his accomplishments, his wonder upon first seeing the stars from space. "You are a bridge builder." Vela's thoughts caressed his. "Perhaps that is why the universe brought you to us." As their minds intertwined more deeply, Elias sensed something unexpected, a growing affection from Vela, mingled with guilt and uncertainty. Behind her royal facade lay a woman who longed for understanding, for connection beyond duty. "There are things I cannot tell you," her consciousness conveyed. "Burdens I must carry alone." "Nothing is truly carried alone now," Elias responded, surprising himself with how natural this communication felt. Their merged consciousness spiraled through stars, witnessed the birth and death of galaxies, experienced the profound interconnectedness of all things. Within this cosmic dance, the differences between human and Nyxorian seemed trivial, arbitrary boundaries in a boundless universe. When Elias finally opened his eyes, hours had passed. They still sat facing each other, but something fundamental had changed. He could feel Vela's presence like a gentle hum in his mind, a comforting resonance. "Now you understand," she whispered, her voice both audible and echoing in his thoughts. "We are stellar-bound." In her eyes, Elias saw a universe of possibility and danger. For in their shared consciousness he had glimpsed something she tried to hide, a prophecy involving an outsider who would either save Nyxoria or destroy it completely. Forbidden resonance morning on Nyxoria brought no sun, but rather a gradual brightening of the crystalline landscape, as though the planet itself awakened. Elias stood at his chamber window, watching light ripple across the vast plains. Within his mind he sensed Vela's presence, distant now as she attended to royal duties but unmistakably there. A soft pulse of warmth indicated her thoughts turning briefly toward him. After last night's stellar union, they shared an awareness of each other that transcended physical proximity. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. The High Council demands your presence, announced Tella from the doorway, her tone notably colder than the previous day. Immediately, the council chamber was a vast hemisphere carved from a single massive crystal. 12 Nyxorian elders sat in a semicircle, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. But Elias didn't need to see their faces. He could feel their disapproval radiating like a chill. Ambassador Chen, spoke the central figure, Elder Zorax, his deep violet skin marked with luminous patterns denoting his status. You have participated in a sacred ritual reserved for our kind. This complicates matters. Elias bowed respectfully. I meant no disrespect. I acted instinctively to protect Princess Vela, and in doing so formed a bond unprecedented in our history. Zorax continued. Our laws are clear. No outsider may share the stellar union with royal blood. The consequences could be far-reaching. Another elder leaned forward. Already the bond shows unusual strength. The princess reports awareness of your emotions even at great distance. This suggests a compatibility that should not exist between different species. Is that not a positive sign? Elias ventured. Perhaps our peoples are more similar than we realized. Or perhaps, Zorax said ominously, it confirms what some have long feared, that humans possess a dangerous adaptability, able to infiltrate even our most sacred connections. Before Elias could respond, the chamber doors opened. Princess Vela entered, her formal attire accentuating the regal bearing that now seemed at odds with the vulnerability he had witnessed in their shared consciousness. Honored elders, she addressed them, ignoring protocol by not seeking permission to speak. Ambassador Chen saved my life. The bond formed by accident, but it is done. I have completed the stellar union as our laws require. The law also requires that any non-Nyxorian who experiences the stellar union must leave our world. Immediately afterward, Elder Zorax countered, for the protection of our people's essence. Elias felt a surge of emotion from Vela, frustration, defiance, and something deeper she quickly suppressed. The trade negotiations, Elias began, are suspended, Zorax declared. You will depart tomorrow at first light. Until then, you are confined to your quarters. As guards moved to escort him out, Vela stepped forward. I invoke royal privilege. As the one bonded to him, I claim responsibility for the ambassador until his departure. A murmur rippled through the council. Zorax's eyes narrowed, but he nodded curtly. So be it. But know this, princess. The depth of this connection concerns us greatly. It would be wise to begin the severance protocol immediately. Elias felt Vela's shock ripple through their bond. What is the severance protocol? He projected toward her. Her response came not in words but in emotion. Pain, loss, finality. Once outside the chamber, Vela guided him through a hidden passage, her hand gripping his with unexpected strength. Their physical contact amplified their mental connection. The severance protocol is a ritual to break a stellar bond, she explained, her voice tight. It is rarely used, painful, and leaves both participants diminished. They emerged onto a secluded balcony overlooking a valley where crystal formations captured and refracted light in breathtaking patterns. There's more you're not telling me, Elias said. Last night, in our joined consciousness, I sensed something about a prophecy. Vela turned to him, her galaxy eyes reflecting the crystalline landscape. The ancestral prophecy speaks of a time when Nyxoria would face its greatest threat. It says salvation would come through a bond between royal blood and a star traveler with vision beyond sight. Her hand unconsciously moved to where his had bled onto hers. Some believe you are that traveler, and others? Others fear you are the threat itself. She stepped closer, the space between them charged with unspoken emotion. Tonight we dream together again. There is more you must understand before you leave. As darkness fell, their consciousness once again merged in the stellar union. This time, Vela guided him deeper into Nyxorian history and culture, showing him why her people feared outside influence. He witnessed the devastating impact of previous alien contact, the slow recovery, the retreat into isolation. But beneath these historical lessons flowed something more personal. Vela's growing feelings for him, complex and conflicted. In the boundless realm of shared consciousness, their essence intertwined with increasing intimacy, beyond physical concerns, a union of minds that transcended conventional understanding of closeness. By morning, Elias knew with certainty that leaving Nyxoria would tear away part of himself, and in Vela's consciousness he felt the same agonizing realization. There must be another way, he whispered as they slowly returned to their separate selves. Vela's eyes opened, shimmering with emotion. Perhaps there is, but it would require defying centuries of tradition and the direct orders of the High Council. Tell me, Elias said. Taking her hands in his, we run. Shattered tradition's dawn approached, bringing with it Elias's scheduled departure from Nyxoria. Instead of preparing to board the shuttle, he followed Vela through a labyrinth of ancient crystal passages beneath the palace. Their footsteps echoed softly as they descended deeper than any human had ever ventured. These tunnels predate even our oldest records, Vela explained, her voice hushed. My ancestors used them to commune with the planet's core, where Nyxoria's consciousness dwells. Through their bond, Elias sensed her anxiety mingled with determination. The Council will notice our absence soon, he said. By then we'll have reached the resonance chamber. She paused at a junction where the crystal walls pulsed with subtle light. There's something you should know, Elias. The assassination attempt wasn't random. There are those among my people who believe I am too progressive, too interested in outside worlds. And now you're proving them right by running away with a human, Elias observed. A smile flickered across her face. Not running away, running toward something greater. They continued downward until the passage opened into a vast cavern. At its center stood a formation of crystals that towered like a cathedral spire, emitting a low, harmonic tone that Elias felt in his bones. The heart of Nyxoria, Vela whispered reverently. From here we can access the planet's collective memory. If the prophecy truly speaks of us, we'll find validation here. As they approached the crystal formation, its tone shifted, resonating with their presence. Vela placed her palms against its surface, closing her eyes in concentration. Join me, she invited. Elias placed his hands beside hers. Instantly the crystal warmed beneath his touch, and his consciousness expanded beyond even what he'd experienced during their stellar union. This was different, vaster, ancient, like touching the thoughts of a being that had existed for billions of years. Images flooded his mind. Nyxoria's formation from cosmic dust, the first emergence of crystalline consciousness, the arrival of the beings who would become Nyxorians, cycles of connection and isolation with other worlds, and finally a series of possible futures, some brilliant with harmony, others dark with extinction. Do you see? Vela's voice echoed within the vision. All paths of survival lead to reconnection with the galactic community. Isolation will be our end. As the vision faded, leaving them once again in the cavern, Elias understood the full weight of what Vela was attempting. You're not just defying the Council for us. You're trying to change your world's course. The bond we share proves what I've long believed, that true connection transcends physical differences. Her galaxy eyes held his, but the Council fears change. They would rather cling to tradition than face evolution. A distant rumble interrupted them. Through their bond, Elias felt Vela's alarm. They've found us. Zorax must have ordered the resonance chamber sealed. She grabbed his hand. There's another way out, but we must. The crystal walls around them suddenly pulsed with intense light. Elder Zorax emerged from a hidden passage accompanied by royal guards. I expected rebellion from you, Princess, he said coldly, but not treason. Bringing an outsider to the heart itself violates our most sacred law. The law is wrong, Vela replied, her voice steady despite the fear Elias felt coursing through their bond. The prophecy speaks of connection, not isolation. The human and I are living proof. What you call proof, I call contamination. Zorax gestured to the guards. Separate them. Prepare for immediate severance. Two guards moved toward Elias, but Vela stepped between them, her body emanating a sudden glow that filled the chamber with blinding light. When it faded, she stood transformed, her violet skin now luminous with patterns similar to those of the elders but more intricate, more vibrant. The ascension, gasped one of the guards. She's completed it. Even Zorax stepped back, his expression shifting from anger to astonishment. Impossible. The ascension requires decades of preparation, years of ritual. Or perhaps, Vela said, her voice resonating with newfound power. It requires only the right catalyst. She reached for Elias's hand, and when their fingers intertwined, the glow extended to encompass him as well. The prophecy never mentioned a savior. It spoke of a union between worlds. Through their amplified bond, Elias felt the truth of her words. Their connection had somehow accelerated Vela's natural evolution, awakening abilities dormant within her genetic code. Simultaneously, he felt himself changing, his consciousness expanding to accommodate aspects of Nyxorian perception. Zorax seemed to age before their eyes, his certainty crumbling. "What have you become?" "What we were always meant to be," Vela answered. "Evolution isn't betrayal, Elder. It's survival." She turned to the assembled guards. "I am still your princess, but Nyxoria can no longer hide from the galaxy. Our future depends on connection, not isolation." The guards looked to Zorax, then back to the transformed princess. One by one, they knelt. "This changes nothing," Zorax insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. "The council will never accept an alien bondmate for their future queen." "Then perhaps," said a new voice from the chamber entrance, "it is time for a new council." Elder Lyra, oldest of the Nyxorian leaders and keeper of the ancient records, entered the chamber. Her gaze fixed on Elias and Vela's joined hands, then moved to the patterns now adorning both their skin. "The dual ascension," she murmured. It was believed to be metaphorical, a symbolic union of different worlds. She approached them slowly. "But here you stand, living proof. The prophecy fulfilled not in separation but in becoming something greater together." By nightfall, word had spread throughout the Crystal Palace. Nyxorians gathered in the Great Hall to witness something unprecedented. Human and their princess, both bearing the marks of ascension, presenting a new vision for their world's future. As Elias stood beside Vela before her people, he felt the weight of destiny through their bond. Whatever came next would reshape not just their lives, but the relationship between Earth and Nyxoria forever. "Are you afraid?" Vela's voice whispered in his mind. "Terrified," he admitted, "but not alone." Her fingers tightened around his. "Never alone again." Harmony of Worlds 1. Year later, the Crystal Palace's Grand Hall had been transformed. Where once only Nyxorians walked, now representatives from a dozen worlds gathered beneath soaring crystal arches. At the center of it all stood Elias and Vela, their bond now legendary throughout the galactic sector. "The harmonic accord is ready for final signatures," announced Tella, who had become their staunchest ally after witnessing the dual ascension. "All member worlds have agreed to the terms." Elias surveyed the assembled delegates with quiet pride. What had begun as a simple trade negotiation had evolved into something far greater, a new alliance built on principles of mutual respect and cultural exchange. The fear and isolation that had defined Nyxorian policy for centuries was giving way to cautious optimism. Not everyone had embraced the change. Elder Zorax and his supporters had retreated to the far reaches of the Crystal Plains, forming a traditionalist enclave that rejected all contact with outsiders. But with each passing month, more young Nyxorians drifted back to the capital, drawn by stories of the transformed princess and her human bondmate. "Nervous?" Vela asked through their mental connection as they moved toward the ceremonial signing table. "Always," Elias replied, feeling her amusement ripple through their bond. After a year, their shared consciousness had developed a comfortable rhythm, distinct identities flowing together like tributaries of the same river, separate yet unified. The physical changes from their ascension had stabilized. Elias still appeared human at first glance, but fine crystalline patterns now traced his skin in certain light, while Vela retained her royal violet hue but with a newfound luminosity that reflected her enhanced connection to Nyxoria's core consciousness. As the delegates took their places for the signing ceremony, Elder Lyra approached them. Age had not diminished her presence, though she had willingly ceded her council position to younger voices more aligned with the new direction. "There is still one tradition we must honor," she said. "The celestial commitment. Your bonding was unplanned, but if it is to be recognized across all worlds, it must be formalized." Elias and Vela exchanged glances. their bond humming with shared emotion. The celestial commitment was Nyxoria's equivalent of marriage, but far more profound. A ritual that would permanently intertwine their life energies, making it impossible for either to survive the other's death. Such a commitment is not made lightly, Elder Lyra continued, especially between different species. Once joined in this way, there is no return to separate existence. We've been sharing consciousness for a year, Elias said. How much deeper could the connection become? Lyra's ancient eyes held wisdom accumulated over centuries. What you now experience is but a surface bond. The celestial commitment merges not just minds but souls, if such things exist. It is transformation beyond reversal. Later that evening, as twilight bathed the crystal plains in indigo light, Elias and Vela stood alone at the heart of Nyxoria. The massive crystal formation hummed with energy, responding to their presence. "Are we ready for this?" Elias asked aloud, wanting to hear her voice rather than just her thoughts. Vela's galaxy eyes searched his. "We've changed so much already. My people are emerging from isolation. Your diplomatic career has evolved into something no human has ever experienced. If we stop now, we remain incomplete," he finished, understanding flowing between them. They placed their palms against the crystal spire simultaneously. The now familiar expansion of consciousness began, but this time it felt different, deeper, more fundamental. Rather than sharing thoughts and emotions, Elias felt the very essence of his being merging with Vela's, their separate histories and identities weaving together into something entirely new. Within this merged state, they witnessed each other's complete existence. Every memory, every fear, every hope, every contradiction. Nothing remained hidden. Nothing could be hidden. It was terrifying in its totality, beautiful in its acceptance. As their consciousness expanded further, they began to perceive something unexpected. Echoes of countless other bonds across time and space, connections between beings throughout the universe, some physical, some transcending materiality altogether. They glimpsed the cosmic web of relationships that bound all sentient life and found their place within it. When they finally emerged from the ritual, stars shimmered above the crystal plains. Elias felt fundamentally changed, still himself, but with Vela now an inseparable part of his identity. Through their enhanced bond, he sensed her experiencing the same paradoxical expansion of self. "So this is what it means," she whispered, "to be truly united across stars." The harmonic accord was signed the following day, establishing Nyxoria as the central hub for a new era of interspecies cooperation. As representatives from Earth, Nyxoria, and 10 other worlds pressed their palms to the crystal document, Elias felt the significance of the moment ripple through the collective consciousness he now shared with Vela. "This is just the beginning," he said, addressing the assembly. "For millennia, different species have viewed diversity as an obstacle to be overcome. Today, we recognize it as our greatest strength." Vela continued seamlessly, their thoughts aligned. "The universe doesn't demand uniformity, but harmony, distinct voices creating something greater together than any could achieve alone." As the delegates dispersed to prepare for the evening's celebration, Elder Lyra approached them one final time. "The prophecy spoke of transformation, but even I did not foresee its true meaning," she said. "You haven't just changed Nyxoria, you've changed what it means to be Nyxorian. What it means to be human, too." Elias smiled, feeling Vela's thoughts harmonizing with his own. "Perhaps that's the point. The boundaries between us were always more imagined than real." That night, as twin moons rose over the crystal plains, Elias stood with Vela on a balcony overlooking the gathered representatives of worlds that had, until recently, been strangers to one another. Music filled the air, a blend of earth melodies and Nyxorian harmonics, creating something new and beautiful from distinct traditions. "What happens now?" Elias asked, though he could already sense her answer forming in their shared consciousness. Vela's violet skin glowed softly in the moonlight as she turned to him. "Now we become the bridge we were destined to be. not just between our worlds, but all worlds. As they looked to the stars together, their joined consciousness reached outward, sensing countless possibilities unfurling across the cosmos, new connections waiting to be formed, new understandings to be reached. And through it all, the profound truth they had discovered, that love, in its highest form, transcends all boundaries, of flesh, culture, and even species. In the vastness of space, their story was but one note in an endless cosmic symphony. Yet in that moment it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.